All right, let's do this. I knew I was gonna make this video at some point. I just needed a little time to process my feelings. I wanted to take some time to be quiet, compose myself, gather my thoughts, allow others to speak up and speak out. It's been really wonderful to see the online support for the Asian community. I'm probably a little bit in an echo chamber, but I've also seen quite a few others, those who would not identify as Asians, using their platforms to share about what's been happening. And the content that has been coming out, videos, songs, writings, it's been moving and healing, and all the feels of being seen. There's been a lot of good that's come out of this darkness. So talking about this topic, I'll just say being Asian in America is not something I'm shy to. One of my first really big YouTube videos that I posted like 10 years ago, I think it's titled Asian American Racism, My Do's and Don'ts. It was kind of a lighter, funner way of speaking to some of the ignorance I had experienced. You know, the classics, people coming up to me and saying konnichiwa or bowing, asking me if I spoke Chinese, assuming I did. You know, stuff that was relatable to a lot of us, especially here in this country. And then on my IGTV over the last year or two, I've posted some videos there that are, I would say, a bit more ranty, passionate. One of them specifically in response to the rising xenophobia during this pandemic, which even then, little did I know how much more scary things would become. The rise in hate crimes against Asians by idiots, I'm just gonna call it how I see it, because they're blaming and are angry at Asians for coronavirus. I'd like to say it's been shocking, but really, there's nothing new under the sun. I think one of the shining stars in America's history, said sarcastically, is its ability to separate and then blame those who are perceived as outsiders, foreigners, immigrants, minorities for problems, period. Problems that affect all humans, from sickness and disease to drought or war or bad economy. If you want to get real, take a little history lesson back to the beginning of this country. Back when the now self-proclaimed real Americans, ancestors, came here, they had to immigrate because this wasn't their land. Actually, it already belonged to other people and they took it from them, which is a whole nother can of worms, maybe for another day. And then shortly after, as the Germans, Irish, Italians started to come over as well, they were not accepted because of things like their religion being different. They were not assimilating. They were not as physically attractive to whoever was setting that bar. They were different and ruining this land and creating crime and taking people's jobs. Sound familiar? But then a pretty quick shift took place when people with even darker skin and weirder faces started to come over. Suddenly, the German, Irish, Italian who had been so hated, pushed down, not allowed to vote, didn't look so bad. Now they get the stamp of approval, these new foreigners do not. And to quickly sum up the rest of this lesson, the cycle has continued. For Native Americans and African Americans, they've pretty much always been viewed the same, to put it nicely, lesser than. But throughout the years, Asians, Latinx, Muslims, anyone else perceived as others would all have to experience it as well. What's my point? When I first heard about the spa shootings in Atlanta, one of my initial reactions after sadness was not surprised, which was ironically surprising. Hate crimes against minorities, people of color, is one of the oldest stories in America's book. Yes, these tragedies are tragic and terrible, but unfortunately, personally, I just no longer find them shocking, which is kind of tragic in itself. I wasn't surprised when the officer downplayed it as the shooter just had a bad day, when they talked about him being a Christian boy and made it seem like he was just confused and struggling with his sin, when they tried to say it wasn't a hate crime, even though he specifically targeted Asian-owned businesses. I'm sorry, I can't, of course, speak to the motive of a mass murderer because I don't think like that, but I can throw out the idea that if I've decided to take a bunch of lives and I choose a place where there is a predominant group of lives, and that group could be based on race, religion, sexual orientation, etc., that seems specific and thought out and like a motive, like a crime against a certain group. So don't try to feed me any of the BS that this wasn't a hate crime against Asian women. If you want to blame purity culture for some of this, go right ahead, because I do think it is flawed. I was raised in it. Yeah, there was a lot of shame and gross stereotypes. There was a reason I grew up believing that guys were really only interested in me because I'm Asian. Because that means I'm more submissive, feminine, have a smaller vagina. Because I'm an Asian woman in America, I should never have to work. I'll always have the opportunity to be taken care of. Yes, that is something I have been told. The assumption being, of course, that us Asian women know how to take care of our men, but it only being tied to the fact that I'm a beautiful Asian woman. I guess nix those two things and I'm gonna have to get a job. So the shooter was just trying to take out his temptation. And you know, us Asian women are temptresses. That's our reputation. That's how he viewed us. So he took 6 of us out. 6 human lives. And we're just supposed to lie down on that and not be enraged that his bad day and twisted view of Asian women was not a hate crime? Whew, that is bananas. Every life taken is awful and requires mourning and grieving, and every life taken and then the reason justified, excused, or swept under the rug requires a whole nother level of mourning, grieving, pain, devastation, and that's what we're left with. And I don't know what to do with it, about it. I don't have answers. This isn't a problem-solving video. I'm just here to speak about it, to share my hurt, to let someone out there know I'm here, you're not alone. Whatever it is you're feeling, feel it. If you don't have a lot of support in your personal life, people around you who you can talk to, who understand, know there is a community of us out there who get it. We're just as fed up, we're just as upset. The AAPI community is strong, stronger than maybe we even knew, stronger than we were told we were allowed to be. Through this terrible time, we're not just gonna sit by and take it. Despite the model minority myth, the idea that we're the minority who will just put our heads down, we won't raise a fuss or make any trouble. Well, stop hurting us. Stop attacking us. Leave our elderly and our women and our people alone. If you see something, say something. If you're not Asian and you want to help, use your voice. If you have a platform, speak up. Learn about being an ally and an advocate. And to everyone out there, stay safe.